Over the summer of 2019, I took a class affiliated with my church. It was a small group, and it was a study on fears, and it was a study on Goliaths in our lives. And it was all about the perspective of that story. One thing I took away from it is, oftentimes when we hear the story about David and Goliath, we have two attitudes. We've either heard it and we feel like we know it like the back of our hands, or we look at it as a metaphor for how God shows up in our lives every single day and helps us overcome so many obstacles and giants. But for the sake of our mission statement and our ministry, I want to give rise in a few breaths to the attention that our trials are pretty strong. They're intimidating. They knock us down. They make us feel afraid at times. They make us feel small. They make us feel like we aren't prepared. They make us fight with little to no resources that we have. And they put us on the spot. And usually there's other people watching who wants to see us fail. 100%. And then there's some people in our corner that wants to see us succeed, but deep down they're like, how is she going to pull this off? I get it. I go through it too. I have all my life. I've always had bystanders. I've always felt like I've been handed fight after fight with no resources to help. And I constantly feel like I'm being nudged to face these Goliaths. I realize that our trials do have a weight in our lives, and they are hard to push for the first few times, the first few attacks. When we first get attacked with something, it breaks and crumbles us down. It breaks through our confidence, and it kind of makes us tumble a little bit. And sometimes we do sit for a while because we're like, I don't know if I want to get back up there. But then sometimes, on occasion, I know for me, you go through life, you kind of skate by it, and then what happens? A similar argument comes up, a similar issue happens again. So you find yourself right back to where you started. And then it's like, oh, well, here's this same fight again. So let's do this, right? So you decide to stand up for a while. And then you think, I'm tough. I've got this. It didn't get me this time. And then it pushes you back again. And then for me, it took me a few times to figure this out. But then for me, I would get right back up again after a while. And I'd say, here comes this same fight. Here comes this same Goliath. Here comes the same giant. Like, won't give up. Then not only do I stand up, I decide to move forward. And I get pushed back, but not as far, not on my rear. And I realize, hey, this fight is tough, but I'm not getting overkilled by it yet. So then by the time it cycles back into my life, I'm prepared with wisdom. I can expect it, and I can expect a little pullback. But I also know and have the security that I'm going to fight back too. So I get back up, I face that Goliath, and I empower myself with further steps, further wisdom, and further logic to take it down with one resource at a time, one thought at a time. But here's the thing, I wouldn't get pushed back in life if that trial or force wasn't strong enough to. We have to get to this place where we're realistic that when things happen to us, it's not because we're weak. It's because it has a strong force behind it too. It has an enemy, puppeteer, master that is making sure that it goes wrong in our lives so that we come back up to the fight again. That's its job. We have to give rise to, it's not us having no preparation. It's not about us in spite of us. It's not because we aren't able or capable of doing something or having the strength to do it ourselves. Again, our trials are strong, but we are stronger because of them. They push us, they pull with us, we tug a war with them, and we wrestle with them for years and seasons at a time. Half the things we go through was already planted in seeds along the way. And we didn't see them as that. We didn't realize that weeds were growing with the flowers in our lives and they just didn't appear. So they come in little cycles, even if you haven't noticed it. And they're ready to attack in full force at one point. I think oftentimes we choose to not see our struggles as a big deal because we think we're going to give them power and we think that's going to give us away. I remember someone close to me once told me that he didn't pray because if he prayed about something, that would mean he would have problems. And if he gave into the problems, that's all they would become. That's it, was just be problems. And I remember thinking to myself back then when he said it, like, that's a dangerous thought process. That is not good for us to fall into the trap of. We need to give our trials a little more credit. Yeah, they are not fun, but yeah, they have some muscle. And I feel like a lot of times we listen to motivational speakers of the faith who talk about their struggles, but they don't give them the credit for actually having some pull in their lives. It's not how they overcome it all the time, but we have to acknowledge the weight and the bearing that both of us have on each other's lives. And that's where I come from, being realistic and logical about things. And that's why I wanted it to be present in this ministry. I want to know what you think. Um, for sure. But we will see you tomorrow.